Let me get it on the screen. Here we are. Okay, so we are on page 8 of this text. And we have 2 more parts to Shabbos to understand how Shabbos came to be the Shabbos that we observe and know. So let's do a recap of everything we did till now. The first thing we did was understanding what is Doraita, the biblical definition of Malacha on Shabbos is? Malacha is the Hebrew word. What's the definition? Creative work. That's the biblical definition. From there, we went to, in the times of Shlomo Melech, they added the part of Eruv. And Eruv is taking an area that really is private, but it's a shared private space. And he made a gzeira that you can't carry there unless you make it into a real private place by sharing food and closing it off, right? So it's not actual public domain. Public domain by Torah law is very complicated. You have to have 600,000 people there. It has to be a certain width. It has to have all kinds of rules for it to be a 600,000, for it to be an actual public domain. But a shared space is similar to a public domain. So Shlomo said you can't carry there unless you have an Eruv, right? A public domain is like a marketplace that has 600,000 people go there every day. But that's what a Reshut HaRabim means. That's what a Reshut HaRabim means. No, a marketplace usually not like a marketplace where we have today. A marketplace means like a thoroughfare, like a basically big open area that belongs to the city, and everybody comes and brings their goods there to sell. Right, that was the next thing we did. After that, we learned that Yeshaya, the prophet Yeshaya, he added, not just you can't do creative work, but you shouldn't what? Not to even speak about things you're not allowed to do on Shabbos, right? Anything that you can't do on Shabbos, you shouldn't speak about on Shabbat. That's what Yeshaya added, the prophet Yeshaya Navi. Remember this? Okay. The next item was the prohibition of muktzah. And we said that there are 2 levels to muktzah. One started before even King David. That was, what was that? That was something that you have absolutely no use for on Shabbos. Do not move. And then Nehemiah added what? Even if you have a use for it on Shabbos, unless you need it right now, don't move it around. Leave it alone. They started making it more permissible, but the core still stayed. So you shouldn't be moving things around unless you need it. So let's say a flower on your table, you shouldn't move it unless you need a space, because it's not something that have any use for you on Shabbos. Candles are a different story because if you move it, you shake. It's a little more complicated because the candle, when Shabbos started, it had an actual flame. And if you move it, it's actually Doraita because you're making the candle burn faster. So that becomes a problem. But the table, for example, was a foundation for something that was muktzah. So if you had before Shabbat a book on the table, so now it's a foundation for something that is permissible on Shabbat, right? So that's muktzah. So muktzah really had 2 stages. One that came before King David and one that came by the time of Nehemiah, which is the beginning of the Second Temple. What? It's very complicated if you allow to straighten it out. When you allow to move it, when you're not allowed to move it. But mostly you can't move candles that are lit. Okay, so that was the definition. That was muktzah. Now we have, right, muktzah means something that's set aside. I have here. Something that's set aside, something you have no use for on Shabbos, you shouldn't move it around. Nothing to do with carrying, just in general, not to move it around the house. Right? And we explained the reason for that is because if you were allowed to move things around, right, then even though you didn't do any creative work, but you haven't rested on Shabbos because you're busy doing things all day long. Someone, you mentioned last week, somebody asked, and somebody commented on one of the videos here about moving furniture around, that maybe it's creative because you're creating a new setup in the house. Somebody asked that? Didn't you ask that? You asked that, right? And somebody asked the question about moving things around the house, that it's creation. Why isn't it like a creative work? Why isn't it biblical? Because maybe Aaron asked, but somebody also commented on the videos saying the same thing. And I was thinking about it, and I think the answer to that question is that when you move around things in the house and you didn't create anything in the actual object. You just created something in the appearance of the object. You didn't really create anything new. You just created a new visual. So creating, if you made a table, that would be prohibited on Shabbos. Right? You know, makabah patish. Remember makabah patish is to do the last step in something?
If you take solid, it's like you put it around the table that's creating a table of food.
So that's a part of border. You can't select things for that reason. Only if you're doing it while you're eating, because you're eating now. That's true. So a lot of things you can't do on Shabbat, only if you're doing it as you're eating, as you're preparing to eat. For example, you can't squeeze a lemon into a cup, have a juice, and then whatever, use it whenever you want. But you can take that lemon and squeeze it onto your salad that you're going to be eating now at the table. Why? Because right now I'm not, even though technically speaking I'm creating the juice, but really what I'm doing is as I'm eating. It happens to be that while I'm eating, I'm doing these things. But really what I'm doing is eating. This is not true all the time. When it comes to that specific example, it is true. But the laws of Shabbat, again, the details are very, very complicated, but this is, just so you know, this rule exists. Okay. Now we have two more items that are forbidden on Shabbat by the Chachamim. It could be there's more, and I'm missing more, but I don't know. But these are two more items for sure. And I put them in the end because I don't have a date for who did it and when did it. All the other things till now, I had people who did it, right? Shlomo Melech, or Nehemiah, or before King David, or Yeshaya Hanavi. Right? Now these two things, it's just from the Chachamim. Now if it came from the Chachamim, it probably means it came sometime before the Mishnah. Yeshaya is after David, he's a prophet. He comes after King David. King David is the time of the first prophet, Shmuel Hanavi. Well, it's prophets before the Shoftim, but Shmuel Hanavi, and Yeshaya is much later. Yeshaya is towards the end of the first Beis HaMikdash, towards the end. Or even after? He's at the end of the first Beis HaMikdash for sure. And Ezra and Nehemiah was the second part of Muktzah. He came at the beginning of the second temple. Now, the next two, when we say that Chachamim did something, it's probably the Anshe Knesset Agdola, or maybe a little later. So it could be it's a little bit after Nehemiah and Ezra, maybe a little bit later. But it's for sure sometime before the Mishnah. You know when the Mishnah is written? Mishnah is written. Rabbi Nasi, he lived when? After this second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. Yeah. Right? After the second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed.
And how long ago was that? How long is that?
How long ago was that? It's about 2,000 years.
And David,
oh, from King David till then? Who would think? So King David is, let's think, King David is a little bit before the first Beis HaMikdash, right? Because his son, Shlomo Melech, built the first Beis HaMikdash. The first Beis HaMikdash stands for 410 years. The first Beis HaMikdash. The second, there's 70 years between the first Beis HaMikdash and second Beis HaMikdash. So 410 plus 70 is 480. And then the second Beis HaMikdash stands for 400 years. I'm sorry, the other way around. The first Beis HaMikdash is 400, second Beis HaMikdash is 410. So that makes 880. And then maybe more years, about 1,000 years, give or take, between King David and Abu Nasi. About 1,000 years. Just so you know, it's just something interesting to know. The Rambam, right? He wrote one of the first books he wrote is a commentary on the Mishnah. And one of the later things he wrote is his Mishnah Torah. You know what Mishnah Torah is? He has 14 books, book of halachas. Every single halacha in the whole Torah he wrote. Every single one. More than the Shulchan Aruch, more than anything. He has every single halacha, which means the halachas of Beit HaMikdash, halachas of Karbonos, halachas of Mashiach, halachas of kings. You're not going to find in the Shulchan Aruch the halachas of Beit HaMikdash. Because in the Shulchan Aruch, you're only going to find halachot that are relevant to me and you today. But the Rambam has every single halacha in Torah. So in his introduction, he wrote an introduction to his commentary on the Mishnah and an introduction to his Mishnah Torah, his book of halachas. And in both of those things, he talks about the history of Torah. And he lists each person, their name, and we know where they lived, we know when they lived. Each person responsible for passing down the tradition of Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu all the way to the end of the Gemara, which is something like six. Which is something like. Can you bring me the Rambam there where it says Aleph? The big black book, Mishnah Torah says Aleph. Big, you're right there, Aleph. All the way to the right. All the way to the right, Aleph, that's it. I think it's 40 generations from Moshe Rabbeinu all the way to Rudan Nasi, and then even more from Rudan Nasi to the end of the Gemara. And he counts every single one. You understand what that means? That means that if you can trace your learning back to the Rambam, whose teacher was whose teacher, which is whose teacher was whose teacher, which is possible, you can trace it all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu. Isn't that amazing? But not, yeah, who taught Torah to who? So it's not as if like, oh yeah, the tradition, who came, where came, how, we know every single person involved in the tradition. Each person. And he names them all, he lists them. He literally makes a list. Not of what they said, but of who is responsible for passing down the Torah from each generation to the next. I'll give you the exact number. He literally lists them all. Now, how generation? Now it's a little bit longer. It used to be maybe 20, 30 years. So let's see here. It's 40, not to redundancy, but from Nimtza, the result is Mirav Ashi, from Rav Ashi, which is the end of the Gemara, Ad Moshe Rabbeinu, Olav Hashem, till Moshe Rabbeinu, Arbayim Doides, 40 generations, and he counts them. 1, Rav Ashi to Rava, Rava to Rabba, Rabba to Rav Huna, Rav Huna to Rav Yochanan, Rav Shmuel, Rav Yochanan, Rav Shmuel to Rabbi Nakadosh, all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu. Isn't that amazing?
So,
Rav Ashi learned from Rava, Rava learned from Rabba, Rabba learned from Rav Huna, Rav Huna learned from Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan, Rav Shmuel learned from Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi learned from Rabbi Shimon and his father, Rabbi Shimon learned from Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Gamliel learned from Rabbi Shimon. All the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Gemara starts right after the Mishnah, but the end of the Gemara is a few hundred years after the Mishnah. Because the Gemara went through a bunch of different stages. Like people basically wrote their comments in the Mishnah, and then people added, until Rav Ashi came and he solidified the Gemara. Ravina and Rav Ashi. He learned from Rava, who learned from Rabba, who learned from Rav Huna, who learned from Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shmuel, Rav and Shmuel, who learned from Rabbi Nasi, who learned from, all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu. Every single person's name. It's pretty amazing. And we know from Rav Ashi to the Rambam who taught who. Because we know who the Gaonim are. Rav Ashi was in Bavel, and there was Gaonim in Bavel. And we know which Gaon came first and which one came second, and all the way down to... Because we know these names, they all wrote stuff. They all wrote books, they all wrote things. We know who they are. Isn't that amazing? It's pretty awesome. Okay, so why am I here? What was I saying this for? Oh, so when we say that there's 2 more takanot from the Chachamim, it probably came sometime after Ezra, but before the Mishnah. So sometime around when the second base Midrash is standing. I don't think so. Ezra the Sofer. Ezra is the one who came back to who came back from Persia and rebuilt the second base Midrash. That's Ezra, right after Mordechai, right after Purim. Right? Purim, Esther's son, Der Yavosh. Purim is before what? If sure. Purim is the last book it's the end of almost the end of Tanakh. All right, so just give you I think we did this last time, just quickly, like you have Moshe Rabbeinu, a few hundred years later, King David, a few hundred years later, first base Midrash is destroyed, a little while later is Purim, second base Midrash with Ezra, a few hundred years later, Mishnah. And Hanukkah happens in between Abu Nasi and Ezra, right? Hanukkah happens in the middle of second base Midrash. And the Greeks come. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 more takanot, 2 more parts of Shabbos that come from the Chachamim. No, Rambam is much after the Gemara is over already. He's Rishon, that's what they call it, Rishonim. So probably 100 and something years after the Gemara is over. Maybe even more than that. Yeah. Okay, so the first Gzeira that comes from the Chachamim, I don't know when it started, but again, it probably started sometime around page 8, bottom text. Sometime around middle of the second base of Midrash, probably sometime around there. It's called Isser Moilid. What does moiled mean?
Birth.
To give birth. So what does that mean? You're not allowed to give birth on Shabbos? No, you're allowed to give birth on Shabbos. No problem. But moiled means, sorry? You have to do Brit Milah on Shabbat. It's a mitzvah.
You're allowed to?
You have to. You have to do Brit Milah on Shabbat. Now, the moiled means when you make something come into being that wasn't there before. So even though it's not an actual malacha, because it's creative and it's so similar to malacha, therefore it is, the Chacham said it's forbidden. What's an example? To donate? Unless it's saving someone's life, I don't think so. So a classic example of this is this is the example here. I missed the first line before this Gemara, but it says there about pouring perfume al gabe cheres mutter. Rabba Amar al gabe cheres nami aser. You can't pour perfume onto a bowl or a plate that's made of cheres. Cheres means earthenware, like clay. Why? Because you're making the thing now have a smell. You're giving birth to a smell. It's a good question. It's a very good question. It's not so simple to use perfume. So let's get to that in a second. But here we have to understand what moiled is. I didn't create the smell. The smell is already there. What did I do? I made the smell now go into something else. That's what it means to give birth. In the same way, the baby exists before it comes out of the stomach, and after it comes out of the stomach. I didn't create the baby. The baby's created way earlier. 9 months earlier, the baby's created. So the baby just went from inside the mother's stomach to outside the mother's stomach. So same thing here. The smell already existed, but before the smell was in the bottle, and now the smell is in the plate. That's right, the smell already existed. But so let's see Rashi. Shenichnas becheres, the top of page 9. Right? Shenichnas becheres, the smell goes into the cheres, into this bowl, into this earthenware bowl. Shaloi haya beirech, before it didn't have a smell. V'asim b'derabanan, and is forbidden by the Chachamim. Shamoiled davar chadash, one who brings something new to where it didn't exist before. Karoiv hu l'malacha, it's very similar to a malacha. It's very similar to creative work. Creating the smell. It's a classic example. There's other examples, but this is the classic example. Something which already existed, but now because I'm bringing it into a new place. So another example, for example, is if I take snow and I rub it together and turn it into water. I didn't really create anything new. And there's no technical malacha I'm doing, but it's very similar to malacha because I changed what it was. So it's like a kind of creation here. That's something else. That's something else because you're not doing it intentionally. Malacha has to be done has to be done with intention. Yes. So the smell example. So I'll give an example.
You also step on the snow. You step on the snow.
Right. That's not something you're doing intentionally. That's true. But what do you want? You just want to eat, right? So malacha is tzricha kavana. In order to violate Shabbos, you have to be doing it for the intention of that action. This is a complicated rule, but that's the general rule. So if you're doing, let's say I'm eating, and it happens to be while I'm eating that I'm doing selection. So in most cases, not always, but in most cases it's permissible because I'm not doing the selection. The selection happens to be happening, but really I'm eating. And that's where it comes to perfume. Or perfume is a different story, but let's just take, for example, brushing your teeth on Shabbat. So I did a video, I did give a share on brushing your teeth on Shabbat, and you can look it up. If you're creating blood, for sure you can't. But most of us, if you brush your teeth every day, it should not cause bleeding. But what's one of the problems? One of the problems is you're creating a smell. Before, my mouth didn't have the smell of mint, and now it does. In the same way of pouring perfume onto a bowl, right? So what's the solution? If when I'm doing it, why am I brushing my teeth now? Is it because my breath smells bad and I want to get rid of it? Then I'm allowed to. If I'm doing it because I'm trying to make my breath smell like mint, then it's called moiled, because now I'm intentionally creating a smell. It's not, I don't think it's a violation, but it's not respectful to Shabbat. So you shouldn't do it. Yeah? Sorry? There's a problem there. That's something else, which maybe I should have brought up here. It's another gzera, which is there's two gzerot. One is called hashmat kol, and one is called marat ayin, which means if you do something that to someone watching would think, the person looking at it would think you're doing a malacha, or it sounds like a malacha, you're not allowed to do it in Shabbat. Left by accident, you can't turn it off. But sorry? In Crown Yeah. What TV? No, it's off on Shabbat. No. Chabad Coats and Luke, they have it on. I'm sure they turn off before Shabbat. That's by mistake. On Shabbat? Okay, I'm sure they spoke to a Rav. I'm not going to chas v'shalom say anything negative. I'm sure they have. They spoke to a Rav. I don't want to pass on any questions on what's going on. I'm just telling you this rule that there's. So we're actually learning another thing now. Number one is moiled. Moiled is the creation of something, even if it's not a technical malacha. The Chachamim forbade it because it's very similar. Two examples we gave is one is creating a smell in something. The smell always existed, right? The perfume existed in the bottle, and now it's out of the bottle. Right? Same thing with turning snow into water. It already existed, but I'm just making it come into a certain way. Because like it's similar to it's the name they gave it. I'm giving birth to a smell. Just like a baby already existed before it came out of the stomach, and now it just came out of the stomach. So the smell, perfume already existed in the bottle, and now it's out of the bottle. No, giving birth is allowed to. I'm just telling you that they called giving birth, of course you're allowed to. It's just a word, it's just a terminology. It's not a comparison, it's just a terminology. I'm just explaining to you why they're using this terminology. It's just a term. It's called molid. So you're asking about perfume. So again, you have to speak to your Rav, and if you want to know, there's all kinds of halachat, there's all kinds of opinions. But it's not necessary, first of all. But if for example, you already have the smell, certain people already have the smell on them, and they're just adding. So I'm not creating a new smell, the smell already exists. But then there's, for example, if you have aerosol, you're turning from a gas to a liquid. That's like turning snow into water. That could also be a problem. Like some of the aerosol sprays there, it's a gas and then it comes out as a liquid. Huh? Okay, so then again, is my intention to get rid of bad smell, like getting rid of perspiration? Or is my intention because I want to smell good? If my intention is I want to smell good, then I'm creating a new smell on me. Or especially on my clothing. If I spray it onto my clothing, for sure. Body is something else. But same thing true of brushing your teeth. One of the conditions there's a few conditions to be allowed to brush your teeth on Shabbat. And again, I made a video about that. You can go check it out. But one of the conditions is you have to be doing it with the intention not to make a good smell in my mouth, but just to get rid of bad smell, or just to clean. Same thing. Like a stick or a spray. So a stick is a problem because you're smoothing. It's one of the 39 malachas. Schita is a mamarech. So again, the spray is also complicated because sometimes you're creating a smell, sometimes you're creating a gas into a liquid. Again, there's a lot of opinions about these things, and I'm not passing the halacha. I'm just giving you an idea of what exists in Shabbat, right? That's the key here. Don't want to answer any halachic questions. Specific cases you can ask me after. I can tell you what the specific halacha is. Then there's a problem, yeah.
If I do it now, it smells like urine.
So if I'm doing it to get rid of the bad smell and to smell good, then it might be a problem. It might be a problem because I'm creating a smell intentionally. Makeup at Shabbat is a different story. It's not to do with smell. It has to do with painting. There's a problem with painting, right? It's like coloring. It's like coloring. One of the 39 malachot is ksiva, it's the color. It's a right. That's another problem. Plus, there's a problem of mamarech, which is to smooth things out. Like, for example, if I have a cake, and there's cream on the cake, and I put the cream on in a certain design, it's a problem on Shabbat. Erasing is also a problem. The laws of Shabbat are very complicated and very detailed. It's a complicated question. I'm not going to answer that now. About when we're ripping the letters when you're opening a box. It's all kinds of opinions. I'm going to leave that alone for now. Okay. So that's another gzera. And then because you mentioned it, we'll also mention the gzeret of marat ayin and hashmat kol, which is when you do things that sound like and look like a malacha, even if you didn't do it, but if it looks like and sounds like a malacha, can't do that either. Okay, last one. Amira lenachri. Amira means to speak. Nachri means a non-Jew. Telling a non-Jew to do malacha for me. That's a gezerah from the Chachamim, not to tell a non-Jew to do a malacha for me. Not so simple. Let's learn. Ready?
It's hot in here. It's hot in here.
Heat is a different story because heat is a question of health. That's a different story. There's a special halacha for heat, special halacha for mitzvahs, a special halacha for health. But the general rule is no. So let's see. Ready?
And then you have the same thing?
Sorry?
Then you have the same thing?
Yes. So this is page 9 in the booklet. And let's see. First, the Gemara in Mayit Katan, which says, Klolei Shadavar, the principle, the matter is, Kol Shu Oisa, anything that you are allowed to do, Oimer Lenachri Lasais, you can tell the non-Jew to do. V'chol she'eina Oisa, Eina Oimer Lenachri V'Oisa. Anything that you're not allowed to do, you're not allowed to tell a non-Jew to make to do. That's the rule. From the Chacham, what? Let's see.
What if-
Let's see. Let's read. Next section. This comes from the Shulchan Aruch from the Alter Rebbe. Let's see. Asru Chachamim. The sages forbade Alaymer Lenachri to tell a non-Jew lastless lana malacha b'Shabbos to do a malacha for us on Shabbos. Bein bechinam, whether he's doing it for free. Bein b'schar, whether you're paying for him. Va'af al pi she'omer lim b'kaydim Shabbos. Even if you tell him before Shabbos, sheyasa b'Shabbos, and he should do it on Shabbos, still can't. Heard? Even if I don't need the malacha till after Shabbos, I'm asking him to turn on the light because I'm going to use the light after Shabbat's over. Still can't. Because a non-Jew who does something on Shabbos for me, it's as if he's my messenger. Even though the halacha is that a messenger cannot, only a Jew can be a messenger for another Jew. But, let's skip this thing. But the Chachamim said that even a non-Jew can be your messenger on Shabbat, and we consider it as if you're messenger, so we can be strict, and you're not allowed to tell him. Okay? Okay, we don't have it, but the truth is that even if you didn't ask him to do it, but he does it for you, you're not allowed to enjoy it in Shabbat because he did it for you.
You're not doing it like this. So let your clothes you prepare. It's necessary.
Mitzvah is a different story. Let's keep mitzvah out of the equation. But if you left the light on, no, that's not a good idea. Let's say you turn the light. You ask the non-Jew to turn the light on in your bedroom on Shabbos, or the non-Jew did it for you. Turn the light on in your bedroom. You would not be able to read from that light on Shabbat.
What if it's in a giant works for?
So let's think about that. It depends who they're doing it for. Let's say, for example, I'll give you a classic example. I am paying somebody to be a cleaning help in my house, right? So it depends on how I pay them. I don't pay them for the job. I'm sorry, I don't pay them for the. I have to pay them. Wait, it's complicated halachas. Let's put the paying aside for a second because it's a complicated thing of when you're allowed to pay them and how you're allowed to pay them. Let's put that aside for a second. I'm trying to remember what the details are. Right. Okay. Let's just say like this. They're cleaning to get paid, which means they're doing it for themselves. But now here's the thing. What? Let's say I'm paying them in the right way that I'm allowed to on Shabbos. I'm allowed to pay them for their work on Shabbos. It's also complicated. Instead of Allah is part of this. But let's just keep that aside for a second. But I want to make the point is like this. They're cleaning the house. They're cleaning the dishes. So as far as I'm concerned, just clean the dishes. Now, which way is it easier? It's easier to clean the dishes with hot water than with cold water. With hot water is a malacha. Cooking the water in the tap. Cold water is not a malacha. And if this non-Jew decides to clean the dishes with hot water, why are they cleaning the dishes with hot water? Not doing it for me. Ask me, use the cold water, I don't care. Work a little harder. No. For themselves, yes, not for me. So if they're doing it for me, it's a problem. It was like this. If there's a way, let's say I tell them to clean the house, right? And they decide to use a machine instead of the vacuum. And the machine doesn't make any noise, because if it made noise, it would be a problem. So the fact that they're doing it in a malacha way is not because I told them to clean the bedroom and the light's off. So they go and turn the light on. Who did they turn the light on for? For themselves, to make it easier for them to clean. So then it's allowed, and then I could use the light also. But if they did it for me, I wouldn't be allowed to use the light.
What about the cooking? That's on the show, yeah.
Sorry?
It's on the show, when they mentioned whatever, and there's like 30 staff or 40 staff that work in the thing, and let's say 20 in the kitchen, they just cook lunch, supper, dinner every day.
Yeah.
If they cook on Shabbat,
Cook for you on Shabbat, they can't cook for you on Shabbat.
they can't even if they're for,
Yeah, because they're doing a malacha for you. Who is the cooking for?
but they're
For you?
You're not cooking for themselves.
But the cleaning is not a problem.
Why?
Because no malacha for cleaning on Shabbos. It's how you clean. But the cleaning itself is not a malacha. So what I'm asking them to do is not a malacha. The way they're doing it as a malacha is their problem. What? One second, do you understand what I just said?
Yeah.
No, it's if what I'm asking them to do for me is not a malacha, and they choose to do it in a malacha way, their problem, not mine. So I'm asking them to clean the dishes. Cleaning the dishes is not a malacha. They choose to do it in a malacha way, that's their issue. But if I ask them to cook, then cooking is a malacha. So they're doing a malacha for me, even if they're getting paid, and they're doing it for their money. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I don't know. It's complicated. I don't know. I think the answer is no, but I don't want to say. They're not cooking, they reheat. They don't cook, they reheat. Depends. Sometimes you're allowed to reheat on Shabbat. Sorry? Depends. If they're not allowed to reheat dish on Shabbat, then they're right, then it's a malacha, you can't eat the food. But if they have mashgiach, and the mashgiach knows the laws, and he makes sure. Sorry? No, if they're doing it for you, they can't. If they're doing it for you, they can't. Then you can't use it. You're not allowed to use or take benefit from anything that a non-Jew does a malacha for you. If the only option for delivery was Shabbos, then they can't. If I specify, let's say I order something from Amazon, right? And I'm not allowed to specify that the delivery comes on Saturday. If I order on Friday, next day delivery, I can't do that. I order on Amazon and I say deliver whenever you want, and they happen to deliver on Shabbat. It's not my problem. I didn't ask for the Shabbos delivery. They did it themselves. No, but I'm not allowed to order next day delivery on Friday. So I'm paying for malacha to be done on Shabbos for me. Okay, so that's their issue to choose to do it on Saturday. They could bring it on Sunday, as far as I'm concerned. For example, if you drop it for cleaners, and you say I want to pick it up Saturday night, and you drop it on Friday afternoon, which means you left them not enough time to do it on Saturday. You didn't leave them enough time to do their laundry before Shabbat or after Shabbat. Not allowed to do that. If I said picking it up Monday, and they can do whatever they want, they can do it Saturday, Sunday. It's their problem. It's not my problem then. Right? It's not doing the malacha for me on Shabbos. They're doing it because it's more convenient for them to do on Shabbos. If you ask me when do you want to do it on Sunday, I don't care. Right? So anytime if they're doing the malacha for me, it's a problem. If they're doing the malacha because it's more convenient to them, then it's not a problem. Clear? So that is an overview of how Shabbat operates. Hope we found that interesting. Because Hashem, again, we're not learning any halacha here, so don't take any of the halachas as actual fact. We're learning about how to understand halacha, how to understand how Shabbos works. The details of each of these things are very complex, and each case is different, and you have to ask your Rav in each case what you need to do and what you're not supposed to do. And B'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow I'm going to work on, we'll see what we have for tzitzit. I'm going to put it in Geniza.